When you're thinking about selling your home and using a real estate agent, it's important that you understand the different ways that you can work with an agent and their firm and the different services that they provide when they're selling your property. In North Carolina, you have choices between a few different scenarios you're okay with when working with a firm and their agents. For example, you may want to work with someone specific to represent only you as a seller's agent, or you may be willing for them to represent both you and the buyer at the same time as a dual agent. You might even prefer to sell the property yourself and work with agents that represent only the buyer. Some brokerages may offer you choices between these services while others may not. Now, whether you choose to work with a listing agent, agree to be okay with dual agency, or work with the buyer's agent, there's certain things that agent must abide by. They must treat you honestly, they must treat you fairly, and they must disclose all material facts that they know about a property or should know about the property. So the North Carolina Real Estate Commission created a disclosure form to inform you of the different types of agency relationships you may potentially see. And agents must review this form with each and every person that they work with in any capacity so that they understand their options and representation. And that's what we're going to do here briefly. Now, the significant thing about this form is that signing it does not obligate you to working with me, my firm, or the agent that provided it to you. Signing this is simply an acknowledgement that you've received it and it's been reviewed with you. It even says so at the very top. This is not a contract. So let's quickly break down what it includes. There's 3 scenarios that we're going to touch on. The first is called seller's agency. This happens when you choose to list your home with a firm, and then the buyer that eventually contracts on your home is represented by a completely different firm. 2 different firms. Each party has their own representation. Someone is in each person's corner to advocate for them, negotiate on their behalf, and represent each party's individual best interests. This is what's called seller's agency. The second scenario is called dual agency. This happens when the firm that you choose brings a buyer that they also represent to the table with you. So one firm representing both parties. This is a dual agency situation, and it's very common because with some larger firms, those agents that work with those firms have their own buyers that they represent. Now, typically in a standard dual agency situation, the firm has to remain neutral when it comes to contract negotiations between the 2 parties. But my firm offers a specific type of dual agency called designated agency, which you'll see listed third. What this means is that if the firm represents both you as the seller and the buyer at the same time, one agent would be designated to represent you, while a completely different agent would be designated to represent the buyer. And what this does is allows you to still have an advocate in your corner to help you negotiate and represent you on your behalf. The last option listed is what's called a buyer's agent working with an unrepresented seller. There are folks that choose not to be represented at all when they're selling their home. They may feel that they don't need an advocate or negotiation or representation or anything. You may receive this form with only this checked if you're selling your home on your own and you're working exclusively with a buyer's agent. But when I send this out, this portion is checked simply as an acknowledgement that we've covered what it means. So this is your review of the Working with Real Estate Agents disclosure for sellers. And these are the different scenarios that you may see along the way when you're selling your home. Now, you've already received a sample copy of this form. Shortly, you're going to receive an electronic signature request for this form as well. Let's move on to our next form.